Okay, then I would suggest let's get started. Hello and welcome everyone to this webinar. I need to apologize for some reason my video doesn't work right now. We try to fix it during the event. I'm Alexander Wolfert, I'm with the Migration Policy Group. This webinar is the first of 3 such events in the new entrepreneurship support project. That is an initiative that aims at incubators, accelerators, and other organizations supporting businesses to become more inclusive and better serve the needs of migrant and refugee businesses. These webinars mark the beginning of the mutual learning phase of the project, where people working in the area can come together to be inspired from good practices and connect across borders. The partners in this project have already worked on convening a community of practitioners interested in improving the support provided to migrant and refugee businesses, leading to the identification of needs in Stockholm, London, Hamburg, Frankfurt, Paris, and Milan. And based on this dialogue on the way forward and the exchange of good practices, the NES project will now see a phase of action planning and the implementation of pilot projects. Today, at this first webinar, we have an exciting agenda of 2 panels. Maybe we can switch to the next slides. Thank you. We have one panel on focusing on, coalition building, networking, how to encourage collaboration with policy actors, including local and national authorities. And the second panel will be on accessible services for inclusive entrepreneurship, addressing challenges for incubators and accelerators to access support services, also focusing on inclusive entrepreneurship. Before I hand over to the panel and its topic, we are also very glad to have here today a representative of JP Morgan, the foundation that makes it possible to have this initiative. Colleen, maybe you want to say a few words first?
Yes, perfect. Hi, I'm Colleen Ebbett. I work for JP Morgan Global Philanthropy. I'm sitting in London, but I'm responsible for our small business support across EMEA countries. And I lead our philanthropy in Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, many places where we know that we have newcomers that need to be integrated into society and the economy. JP Morgan Global Philanthropy's mission is inclusive economic growth, and we strive to do that through our philanthropy every year by supporting nonprofit organizations and other organizations across 38 countries to support jobs and skills grants that help young people get access to the skills that they need for the future of work, small business support to help particularly underserved or underestimated entrepreneurs get the support that they need to grow their business and create jobs for their communities, and financial health to help families manage their savings and debt so they can withstand financial crises. Particularly for small businesses, we're very interested in connecting underserved entrepreneurs such as women, minorities, newcomers, including refugees and migrants, and entrepreneurs of color with capital, targeted assistance, support networks to help them grow faster and strengthen their local communities, which means that we partner every day with organizations like many of you on this call to create that impact within your own communities by helping these entrepreneurs. In our work in Sweden over the last decade, we've started to focus more on supporting migrant entrepreneurs, including Nyföretagar Centrum, who may be on this call. And what we see is that the entrepreneurial spirit of newcomers is as strong, if not stronger, than many local people within their communities. And so it's really so critical for us to help them, connect them with opportunities and the support that they need so that they can integrate into the economy, and not only the economy, but also into society. Exceptionally talented people are coming into our cities every single day. And we're thrilled to be a small part of partnering with organizations like yourselves to help them grow. And that brings us to Migration Policy Group, our partners on the newcomer entrepreneur support. We're thrilled to be working with them and looking at how we can bring best practices across the 5 cities that were mentioned, and really try to figure out what are the needs for newcoming founders and entrepreneurs, specifically focusing more on migrants and refugees. And we really hope that this will create best practices that we'll learn with all of you through these pilots, through understanding what the situation is. And I couldn't be more excited about how topical it was to switch to the COVID-19 impact on small business and particularly newcomers. Any crisis like this highlights vulnerabilities, and we saw that we're holding back more women. Those that are left behind are being left further behind. And so it's really exciting for us that this work was able to pivot very quickly to try to address some of those as well. So thank you very much for the discussion that you all will have today, the work that you've been a part of, and we hope to support you now and in the future to create more impact in our communities. So thank you.
Thanks, Colleen. I agree. I think this is really a very, very timely moment to implement this project. And indeed, we try to incorporate this impact of COVID-19 on our field in the work of NES. Just one sentence on our discussion today. We are on a very tight schedule. We will try to have a little time for question and answers after each panel. Please make use of the chat box to post your questions and comments, and then we will come back to you and ask. And now I would like to ask Jonathan Stebik from GRDR, one of our partners in the project, to a little bit introduce the topic today. And then after that, Beth Ginsberg, our chair, to introduce the first panel.
Hello everybody. Thanks for attending to that webinar, and I think we are quite excited to have these free events. I will not be too long. As Alexander said, we have 7 speakers, so I think they have things interesting to say. So maybe only a couple of words about the first panel. I think the ecosystem and coalitions for improved and comprehensive support, it's a key issue for us. I mean, in a former European project, we were talking about the dialogue between ministries and public policies and local authorities. And I think it's a necessity to break the border between public policies in order to reinforce the link between operators that deals with migrant entrepreneurship, and especially for newcomers. For instance, in France, the inter-policy dialogue should include Ministry of Labor, Employment and Inclusion. So we cannot give a complete answer if we only deal the issue of migrant entrepreneurship with the Ministry of Integrations. So we have to enlarge the scope, and I think we have a great panel here, and the great dynamics are already have already started in different countries for the NES project. So I will not be that long, and I will give the floor to Beth to introduce the first panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jonathan. As usual, you are very good at getting to the point. I really appreciate it. So we're not going to have slides, as I said, but we were just putting up that slide to show you. Can we have that slide one more time, Lucia? I'm sorry. Basically to show you who is going to speak on the panel. So, and there are 4, and noticed this morning, funnily, that we're going to have the boys panel and the girls panel. That was totally not planned. So the first panel is on coalitions for improved and comprehensive support ecosystems. And to keep this informal, because we really want this to be an interactive seminar with the panelists, I would ask that each of the panelists just say a bit about who they are and a tiny bit about their organization, but please keep it short because then we're going to go on to the questions. So Farhad, do you want to start to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Farhad. I work on the incubator part of the association called SINGA, which is an association, but more than that, citizens movement, which tries to create links between the newcomers and the local society. And yeah, the organization exists in 22 different cities in 10 different countries across Europe and the US. And we have different poles of activities, and incubators is one of these activities.
Thank you very much. That was very brief and very informative. Next is Harry Goldman. Do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Harry Goldman. I'm the CEO of Nyföretagarcentrum, which is the leading organization in Sweden for starting up companies. We have about more than 10% of all startups coming through our organization in Sweden. That means that we have about more than 16,000 going through for counseling. We have about 8,000 people starting every year, some years more. This year, last year we had the pandemic, which actually led to more starts than we had the year before. So there are about 80 plus organizations around the country, covering from north to south, east and west, and some of our colleagues are also attending here. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Harry. And next we have Cameron.
Hi, thank you, Beth. Hi, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon and maybe good evening for some of you. So my name is Cameron Heenan. I'm a policy officer in the Migration, Population and Diversity team at COSLA. So COSLA is the Convention of Scottish Local Authorities, and we're the representative body of all local government in Scotland. We have 32 local authorities. So we provide a very strong collective voice at local, well, a national and an international level to advocate on behalf of Scottish local government. So in addition to this, we also hold the post of the Strategic Migration Partnership in Scotland. So this means a significant piece of work that COSLA engages in surrounds refugees and asylum seekers. So we work very closely with the likes of the Home Office, the UK Home Office, the Scottish Government, individual local authorities, and the third sector as well to play our role in resettling refugees and to work on their integration as well from every level, from every sort of bit of work, right from the acquisition of the English language to their engagement in work and other parts of their development in the community. So, thank you, Cameron. That was very good. And last but certainly not least, Matteo, where are you?
Thank you, everyone. It's Matteo Matteini here from Milan, from the city of Milan, and I work for the city of Milan. I'm a project manager, and I work on several projects, mostly European Union funded, on the city department that overlook urban economy and employment. That's it.
Okay, thank you. So we can now begin the panel. How this is going to run is that for the first panel, I have 2 questions for each panelist, but we'll go for the first question to all 4 of you, and then we will, I'm sorry, I have 1 question for you. So I will ask that question to each of you, and then at the end, hopefully we're gonna have some time for Q&A, so that should be interesting. I love Q&A. Okay, so shall we start with Farhad, since you were first to introduce yourself? So I wonder, Farhad, could you tell us, in your experience and representing obviously SINGA, what is the most important thing to do to create sustainable collaboration and a network stroke coalition building with policy actors such as local and national authorities and bodies to improve the support service ecosystem?
Thank you, Beth. Your question is a really important one that should be really put at the center of focus. And I totally agree with Jonathan saying that the civil society actors, in this case, incubators and accelerators, can only be part of the solution, only part of the puzzle, and a coalition and collaboration among different actors from the private sector, notably the actors from the corporate world, and also policy actors at the local and national level, is absolutely vital in order to improve the support ecosystem for the newcomer entrepreneurs. And a study after study shows that newcomers are more likely to embark on entrepreneurial projects, including your own paper, Beth. But at the same time, it's what's unfortunately also true is that most of the entrepreneurial projects launched by newcomers are also more prone to failure than local projects. So in such a context, part of the problem obviously also is that newcomer entrepreneurs, in addition to facing the typical challenges that every entrepreneur faces, they also have their own set of challenges, which is related to language barrier, not knowing the administrative procedures, and the list goes on. So for that reason, it's absolutely important that different actors collaborate with each other. And in that sense, as a civil society actor, as an incubator, I think one of the most important things that we can do is that given our rich experience on the ground, working with entrepreneurs, newcomer entrepreneurs specifically on a daily basis, noticing their successes, their failures, their struggles, I think we are a very rich source of knowledge that can inform the policy actors when they develop policies to tackle the challenges faced by newcomers, and also to reinforce and strengthen the support ecosystem for the newcomer entrepreneurs. Just in our last cohort, I was working with a project launched by a newcomer. So I firsthand saw all the different difficulties and struggles that he had to go through in order to launch his project. And finally, he was selected for a grant, an initiative by the French government that aims at providing opportunities with entrepreneurs in tech coming from underprivileged backgrounds and also newcomers. And so that was a really good example of how national actors work with civil society, and it's a really beautiful story. But that's just the beginning of the story, and yeah, there are much more work to be done. So yeah, I think playing this role of catalyst and information hub to provide on the ground info for the policy actors to then bridge the gaps that exist, and also to make policies that are based on the reality on the ground. In this sense, we can definitely, we have a lot of work to do together.
Thank you very much. That was very clear, and you gave a great example. So thank you. So I'm just going to ask Harry, do you want to add to this? What is your experience of the ecosystem, Harry? You can share, please.
I think you are still muted.
Oh, is Harry still mute? Are you muted, Harry?
Sorry for that.
That's fine.
For migrant, it's crucial to have a network around. That is what often is lacking. People coming to Sweden are knowledgeable. What we find is that many of those who are coming in are academics and still are unemployed. and that seems maybe peculiar, but that is the fact. We have people coming into us with academic degrees up to 70, 80%. They have 3 or 4 times as much knowledge about being entrepreneurs than the Swedish population. Still, we have a lack of entrepreneurs in Sweden. Still, we have a high unemployment in Sweden, where we have up to 20% unemployed with that foreign background. So this is the difficulty. Can we help people to run unemployment or as newcomers where you don't have a network? Give them this network, which we have. Then we have done a very good job. So it's contacts, network, knowledge is often a thing that is needed when you start a company. What we find is many of those people we are working with, they have the knowledge of being entrepreneurs. They need to have knowledge about how do you manage the taxes, the system, and to have the right contacts for getting customers because they lack the network. Here we have. The third thing, besides contact and knowledge, is financing. It's hard to get the financing when you're starting. This is part of an international discussion. The situation is different in Sweden with microloans. This is not so well developed as in other countries where you have guarantees. Yes, we have, but in very minor scale. So financing, contacts, and knowledge are the ground problem for not even only the entrepreneur, the migrant entrepreneurs, for all entrepreneurs, but especially for this country.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Harry. That was very informative and good. And we'll come back, I'm sure, with questions for you. So anyway, so just to move on now, Cameron, would you like to share what's your experience of this? And do you have a good example, please?
Yeah, thank you, Beth. So I think Kosla has a bit of a unique role in this sort of area in that we're not so much a service provider directly for entrepreneurial support. Just an introduction with us being a national organization and being a membership body for local government. It's very much more of a coordinative role and ensuring that best practice is shared and there's good examples out there for everyone to be able to follow. So to give a bit of a background into the work we do in Scotland, there's one piece of work that really underpins our approach to integration in Scotland for refugees, and this is the new Scots refugee integration strategy. So the strategy runs from 2018 to 2022, which is getting very close, and hopefully work will be starting soon on developing the new strategy. But this is a really wonderful example of partnership working in Scotland to address the needs of refugees. So this involved COSLA, ourselves, the Scottish Government, the Scottish Refugee Council, and the University of Glasgow as well. So speaking for COSLA, we've been really delighted to be able to work with these partners in delivering the strategy, and it really has been recognised as a really good example of positive action and investment into refugee integration. And it really has brought refugee integration into a more a central focus into a lot of public services, not just ones with a very specific refugee focus. Importantly, for local authorities, it's been used as a really valuable framework into framing the issues that they face as local authorities and how they can be assisting refugees. Most importantly, behind all this is we've got one really wonderful political buy-in. We've got 32 local authorities in Scotland, and every single one has made a very vocal commitment to the New Scots strategy and to play their part into assisting refugees, whether that be through initial resettlement or the integration work that follows. Another really important part of this strategy, I think, is that it views integration as a two-way process. So yes, of course, there's the work that we do with integrating refugees into the communities, but then at the same time, there's a lot of community learning for locals into understanding the benefits refugees can bring into their communities. And so I think that's a very important point to make on that. So there's been a lot of positive initiatives that have come out of the strategy. Still plenty of progress to be made, of course. But the progress that we have made has really been underpinned by the partnership work that we've been able to do. But I think most importantly, it's ensuring that we do have the voice of refugees and asylum seekers in this decision-making process, understanding what are the difficulties they feel that they face in a day-to-day life, and making sure that that's reflected at a local and national level. So that's something we're really pleased with how we're able to do. I think it's really important as well, like for families who manage the very stressful event of displacement from their home countries, and then also a very stressful event of resettlement into a new community. We've seen time and time again, if the families are given the time, the security, the support, and the social structures and everything, they have shown that they can make the change that they want to be. So it's wonderful to see that. Maybe more specifically on the entrepreneurial side of things. So one of the main themes of the strategy is on the economic integration of refugees in Scotland. So refugees in Scotland, just like anyone else in Scotland, are entitled to access entrepreneurial support initiatives. But it's very clear that in engagement with it so far, the process has not been as easy as refugees would like it to be. And I think maybe entrepreneurialism, it sort of comes in as an automatic first step, but then once the process actually starts, then it's realized this is actually a lot more difficult than they maybe thought it was going to be. But we've got wonderful local networks across Scotland, and with that partnership approach, we have shown that business ownership is an achievable path. With obviously communication at the most early stage really being crucial, and making sure everyone understands what role that they need to play. So on a national level, we've got two organizations, Scottish Enterprise, but they would work more on a large business scale and with maybe more of an international focus. And then we've got Business Gateway, who certainly have that more local knowledge into helping sort of small and medium enterprises, which is great. So they've got offices all over Scotland in each of our 32 local authorities. And they provide business support services, impartial advice at all stages of the startup journey. And the support, it ranges from finding funding, explaining regulations, signposting to other support services, which is crucial. And there's even, I understand there's even some workshops into helping you find a name for your business. So good too. Yeah, so we have a lot of initiatives so that entrepreneurialism can thrive in Scotland. I would definitely say the key to this now, especially, and this isn't unique to Scotland. This is COVID obviously being a global issue, but as we look to develop a post-COVID landscape, we really have to make sure that no one is left behind. We do at a national level have a strategy actually called No One Left Behind. However, this focuses more on employability. So we're working hard to make sure that sort of same focus is put on entrepreneurship as well. Refugees are sadly sometimes seen as a bit of an afterthought in these more national schemes, especially with maybe so many people struggling. But with the additional barriers refugees face in settling in a new country, there's obviously a very strong argument for ensuring that they are engaged. They've shown time and time again they're determined, and we have seen with many examples from across our local authorities, with the right support at the right time, and most importantly, the right people who really want to help. We've wonderful initiatives in Scotland to show that entrepreneurialism in our refugees is a very viable path.
Thank you very much, Cameron. Really appreciate it. Really interesting. So last but not least again, Matteo, do you want to take the floor? What is your experience of all of this from Milano?
Hello, good morning. And well, I'm pretty much happy of everything has been said before me, because this is a a fantastic wide perspective of what it should be done, and the approach that people should have onto the business entrepreneurial capacity of migrants. But I would like to talk about my perspective, which is the city perspective. And so first of all, our roles is different. And I have to say that our role is to put a vision into, the city policies and a long-term vision that put together the strategy, the growth strategy of the city with the knowledge of this huge sector of our economy, which is represented by the company led by third country nationals. I'm saying that because the city of Milan has seen an exponential growth in popularity, wealth, and capacity from 2015 onwards, when we organized the Universal Expo, which was a great platform for the city to flourish. And we have a 5 years of growth and attracted a lot of capitals in the city. So we have, we had before the COVID, we had a vibrant and business environment for everybody. So we attracted a lot of people, including third country nationals, entrepreneurs, which are a resource of the city. So our first internal debate was to shift the narratives of migrants from passive sector of the population that traditionally are assisted from social policies to an active part of the population that brings in, and I totally agree with, encourage their voices to be heard at the highest level, that be included in the vision of the development of the city. This is one first things that a city should do for the citizenship at large. And this was significant for us to take the part that includes migrants entrepreneurs into the department, which actually overlook the urban economy, not the social policies. So we are now managing programs under this department, which is the right place for them to be included into the growth strategy of the city. Our role is different from private actors, but the city of Milan has developed this vision, which we call subsidiarity, which is a strong vertical integration of services from public and private, initiatives, and this works. So this has worked, and we experimented it from several projects. And the other axis is the horizontal, subsidiarity, which hasn't very well integrated yet. What I meant is there are a lot of micro initiatives which are very, very interesting. We develop specific capacity in assisting the companies that migrant entrepreneurs set up, but they're not coordinated. Startup ecosystems which provide services to the startups, but few of the migrant entrepreneurs can access it because it's too specialized. And sometimes our businesses are not scalable, and are not exactly what a startup journey envisaged for them. Mm-hmm. So we have plenty of actors, but they're not integrated. Some have specific, incredible capacities, but they're not integrated. So we thought that the role of the city is to integrate them, is to channel migrants entrepreneurs where they are most assisted, where they are better assisted. So we have, for example, migrant incubators now that provides training, but you also have, startup accelerators in the city that connect them with fundings and capital availabilities. But they are just, the two sides of a business journey, and in the middle you have a lot of gaps to fill. And we heard before, and we have carried on several surveys that says that the needs of those specific entrepreneurs are always the same. There is a pattern. You need to know language. It's not enough to know Italians. You have to learn business Italian to be connected to other businesses. It's not enough to know rules and regulations. You have to know the people that actually can assist you and teach you rules and regulations. I don't know if whoever is familiar with the Italian business environment knows how complex it is, and you have to have a fiscal advisor, a taxes advisors, administrative advisors, and you have to have a professional that don't even exist in other countries because it's so complex and the legislation is so specific region by region. So you have to have all of these, and sometimes they don't know where to go, for example, and sometimes they don't know where to go and find the right service for what they need. So this is another services that we can provide as a city, to connect them with the best professionals for them to resolve their problems. Or there are also, what I call reputational gaps, because sometimes this is part, obviously, of the social capital that has been mentioned before. They don't belong to any networks when they're here, and this specific business environment is based on networks and is based on association and cooperation between parties. But if you are a newcomer, you don't know where to go and how to access those networks. This is another help we can provide them, and I think is going to be very effective. I think this is enough for now. I can discuss later other aspects of our projects if you want.
Thank you so much, Matteo. That was very interesting and informative. So I'm looking at the clock and we have 6 minutes for questions. And I think how it's going to go is that, Alexander, you've collected some questions in the chat box if you are interested.
Well, we don't have any questions posted yet.
Okay.
But please feel free to ask.
Yeah,
forward.
we could do it informally. I mean, we would prefer it if you have a question just to use the hand raising, and we can ask you to ask your question.
Shogli raised his hand.
Okay, who did? Sorry?
Shogli, take the floor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Beth, and thank you, Lucia. And of course, thank you to the panelists for the wonderful, I would say, presentation, which I think touched point with many of us. Briefly, my name is Shogli, and I work with Place Network, which is a startup that's based in Paris that works mainly in migrant-led innovation. So after the thanking, I just have 2 tiny questions that I would love to share with the panelists about the topic for today, which is, first of all, with all the context that you've provided, can you please share with us maybe some of the processes for active collations in both public, private, and the governmental level? And also, I have another question, which is about within your respective organizations, where do you integrate the perspective of migrants themselves in your interventions? Meaning, what are the steps that you take to make sure that the projects will efficiently target your final user, which is in this case, migrants and refugees or asylum seekers? And thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to answer first? Who would? Farad, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you for your question, Shogli. Yeah. So regarding your first question, there have been a number of initiatives that we have had together with the public sector at the local level and also at the national level. A really great example is what we did with the municipality of Paris. We opened a place called La Maison des Réfugiés, and it's a place where locals and newcomers can come together around cultural events, around concerts, around different sorts of activities. So we are doing this project together with another giant actor, Solidarité. And despite last year being a year of a particular year in terms of having events in person, we still managed to have a number of events there, and we still managed to welcome more than 1,800 newcomers in the center, and also around 1,000 locals around different events that we organized. So yeah, I think that was like that. We also have other initiatives. Regarding your second question, really important, really critical to integrate the voice of the newcomers and the services that we provide. So for us as an incubator, it's really an important factor, and we do it throughout all the different steps that we take from the very beginning of call for projects, where newcomer entrepreneurs apply for our incubator to the very end of the program. We have regular mutual feedback giving sessions where we ask for feedback from the part of the entrepreneurs that take part in our program, what they think of the services that we provide, how we can improve it in a way that's more adapted to their need. And it's something that a process of continuous learning. So it never finishes, and yeah, this is something that we do on a regular basis to improve our services each and every day. And one of the values, one of the approaches that we have at Singa, it's the approach of co-creating, co-constructing our program with the people who participate in the program. So there's a very horizontal approach in terms of what we are doing, because there are a lot of things to be learned from people participating in the program, and that's how we improve and adapt our programs.
So just quickly, we have 1 more minute until we move on to the other. Any of the panelists, do you have anything to add to what Farhad has said about these 2 questions?
If I could just give a quick answer to the second.
Sure, Cameron, great.
We had a very significant refugee and asylum seeker involvement in the creation of the New Scots strategy back in 2017, and as well as that, we also have an ESOL strategy in Scotland, which obviously migrants and refugees benefit from greatly, and they were included in the design and understanding the needs of asylum seekers in that. A bit more of a recent example, so because of the New Scots strategy, the Scottish Government have actually secured AMIF funding, a joint bid between ourselves and Scottish Government and the Scottish Refugee Council. AMIF is Asylum Migration Integration Funding. And that's on the back of the New Scots strategy, and so we're still going through the sort of application process and everything, but we're in the middle of developing panels to assess bids, and there will be refugee representation on those panels, as well as that the sort of separate sitting underneath the New Scots strategy with a core group, and then from that we've got different subgroups like focusing on education, health, housing, the list goes on. And each of those then created some new analysis recently to really focus on what are the priorities for refugees in 2021. And each of those engagement events engage with refugees to discuss their priorities. So that's the quick answer.
Anyone else? Harry or Matteo?
Yeah,
do you want to
if you want, I can provide an example. But so we were talking about startups, but this is a part of the assistance we can give to migrants. There are other, especially in this moment of deep crisis, there are other companies which are already established, but they are suffering, but they are still resilient. So we spot them, we talk to them directly, and we realized they didn't have any access to subsidies that were granted to everybody. So we start to publish a bulletin in the city, targeting their needs and their requirements, where we listed all the resources that the city and the state aid and the European aid were given to entrepreneurs in terms of subsidies, access to finance, trainings, and technical assistance. So that was the most direct way to assist them in this time of crisis, because one, has been said before, but the lack of information is one big obstacle for them to succeed and to make their businesses stay alive.
Thank you. And Harry, do you want to add to that?
For us, it's crucial to help them practical. Those who are giving our advising are also living as entrepreneurs and know their own businesses very well, and are well established, have been chosen by the local community and partnerships we have with banks, with organizations to be the counselors, so they know what they're talking about. Often it's very much so you have to give practical advice, who to connect to, how is the budget, how can you help out to make a good budget? How can you see that the marketing is done properly? How is it with the individual situation? Start with that, the person. So this is a process from A to Z to go all those questions and being around, helping out then afterwards with mentors to connect them further on. Just practical advice, which is free of cost, of experienced people that have been around a long time and know who to connect to in the next step. Because people coming in, they lack the knowledge of knowing other people in business. They know their thing very well, and you have to give them a push forward in some cases to take the right step. In some cases, you have also have to have a discussion. Is it the right time? Is it the right situation? Can we amend the business idea? What are your market channels? Every case is individual. And this is also very important to think of. Each one is a person. Each one is a competent person. And often when you see migrants, you see, oh, they are newcomers, they don't know anything. It's the opposite. It's really the opposite. So what we can do with women, with men, with young people, is try to give them the knowledge we have, being in the country for a long time, which makes it much easier. And this is not difficult at all. It's just doing it. I have to say, as I announced before, I have actually a pre-booked meeting at 1 o'clock. So Tara will take my place.
Okay, thank you, Harry. Thank you. So this ends the first panel. Thank you very much. I know we could talk about this. I mean, I could talk about this issue forever, but this won't be the last time that we will have this opportunity. And Alex will tell you about that at the end of the seminar. But thank you to all the participants and for the questions afterwards as well. And now we're going to move on to panel 2, which is about accessible services for inclusive entrepreneurship. Thank you, Lucia. So here are the participants, Anna and Martine from Migra Coop, Alison from Capital Enterprise, and Julia and Sven from Lead Hub. And I have to just apologize because I said the first panel was the boys panel and the second panel was the girls panel, but Sven, obviously you've joined the girls panel for this one. So, so if we could just start by everybody giving a quick introduction of themselves, that would be fantastic, starting with Anna and Martine.
Okay, maybe I start. Yes. Okay, I am Martine Diaye, so I come from a non-profit organization called Reveil, and we found with Melting Cup, Anna, a program named MigraCup. And MigraCup is a cooperative and collective project. It is a section temporary cooperative and collective project. Yes. Okay.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Let's go, Anna.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm Anna Molag, the CEO of Melting Cup Association. We are in Paris, and we manage a MigraCup program, so with a Reveil Association. MigraCup works with small entrepreneurs, very small, simple business, and most of time starting in an informal way.
Great. Thank you very much. Very precise, very quick. Thank you. Alison, can you be next?
Oh, hi, everybody. Thank you very much for the invite. Really good to see everybody. So yeah, I'm Alison Partridge. I lead a program called One Tech in London. And One Tech exists to connect underserved communities with opportunities in tech startups, both in terms of entrepreneurship and in terms of talent. We don't actively target migrants or newcomer entrepreneurs, but we do have around 28 to 30% of our cohorts are migrants or newcomer entrepreneurs.
Okay, thank you very much, Alison. Nice to have you. And Julia and Sven.
Hello, it's me, Sven. Julia got a little bit lost with her internet at home, so she will hopefully join later. So this is Sven, not from the home. It's from the home office. As you see, I'm outside at the moment and joining Corona office. So we are the lead up in Hamburg, and we are also a startup incubator for refugees and newcomers. We started about 5 years ago. We also try to provide to be a place where migrants and refugees can interact with local people. Besides this, we are also a hub for different organizations working in the field of refugees and migrants.
Thank you very much, Sven. That was very good and very quick. So we'll just get on to the questions. So how, again, it's going to work is that we have 2 questions for this panel. So I'm going to ask the first question and go around to the 3 organizations and then ask the second, and then hopefully we'll have a bit of time for questions again. So starting with the first question and starting with the first panelists, which are Anna and Martine, what I wanted to ask you is, in your experience, what is the biggest obstacle for newcomer entrepreneurs to access support services, incubators, accelerators, and how do you work in your organization to overcome that? The floor is yours, girl.
Okay, so I will answer to this question. We identified 2 main obstacles to access to support service. First one is how entrepreneurs can find what they need, identify the adapt support service, especially in big cities like Paris or London or Hamburg. We think is not easy. Everything changed very quickly. Contact programs, information, most of time in the language of the host city. Then entrepreneurs need a very good social advisor or a dynamical personal network to find the appropriate support to their project. For us, we think that time giving to the partner networks, time spending to share our project and build it with partners and entrepreneurs is very important. And in our case, Reveil has also a large network in West African communities. So the word of mouth is quite efficient in our case. And finally, spread the information of our projects within the communities networks can be helpful. And maybe also we have a sectoral approach. So maybe it's easier to be identified by newcomers, entrepreneurs, and partners. Mm-hmm. And second point, the obstacle of access, maybe the first meeting to talk about the project can create a lack of understanding for both parts, entrepreneurs and advisor, misunderstanding around the socio-economic environment of host country, cultural codes, French language level, business vision, management tools, as business plan, planification capacities. Sometimes during the first meeting, because of the language limits, it can be difficult for entrepreneurs to develop more than I want. For example, I want to open a restaurant. It can be not easy to go through that during a first appointment. So many times after this first meeting, support services appears not adapt, or advisors are powerless to propose a solution of support very adapted. So I think we think that it's very important to spend time for a first meeting, to not be in a hurry, to have a large discussion about a lot of subjects, and try to explain clearly what we can provide, and stay aware to other support solutions, more adapted maybe sometimes. And finally, incubators, accelerators can sometimes appear very theoretical for entrepreneurs. In many countries, business plan, mapping, project, management, entrepreneurship seminar isn't the way to start a business, and can be so difficult to be understandable. And also now, until a COVID crisis, the distancial support is for us quite problematic also to give a good support.
Yes.
And finally, last thing, many sociological parameters, which can be true for all the entrepreneurs, not especially for newcomers, but I think it's more pregnant for newcomers, can be the the family caring responsibilities for women and economical responsibilities for men, and globally economical issues in entrepreneurs' life that can make difficult to accept that formalizing activities can be a long way, and to take the time for that.
Thank you so much. That was a very comprehensive answer, and a thank you.
Thank you.
Martin, is that
Yes.
for you? Yes. Okay.
Yes, okay.
Go
Okay.
on.
Martin, you're
Okay.
gonna answer to the second question.
The second question, yes. Well, so
For the second question. Okay, so
yes,
okay,
well,
wait for the second one. Yeah. Okay.
okay.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I would like to highlight both the entrepreneurs who enter the incubators the last 2 years and those we met in our daily practice. And Hannah has already told you, we have been working particularly with small entrepreneurs who have already an informal activity practice. Thus, we often met with entrepreneurs who multiply the experiences of business creation support services. And however, they have a lot of difficulties in starting a business because they fail to see the link with their practice. So in addition, it's important to notice that women make up the majority in our incubators without being intentional. Indeed, during the recruitment phase, we meet male entrepreneurs that were really interested by the program, but a little bit less by the collective dynamics. So then we first favor a very practical approach based on sector issues and in which theory is based on practical reality. I'm going to give you some example about it. We experienced in the last 2 years a 5-month temporary culinary cooperative and another one, an artisan textile cooperative that had just finished in February. And for instance, during the artisanal textile cooperative, we have found an opportunity to take part in a 2-day designer exhibition. And this exhibition enables the entrepreneurs to learn more about how to set a price, for example, who are your final consumer, how to think about a collective brand name, and how to use management accounting tools. Another example, for example, the order of a kitchen cap by a restaurant was also the opportunity to learn a specific cutting technique and the best way to organize a production chain. So we want to, with this case, we went to the partners sewing workshop because they have the best cutting equipment, and the entrepreneurs learn by doing the order kitchen cap. So they really enjoy the training time and make it sure that this moment spent together as a reinforce not only the cohesion group, but also the desire to do together. Yes. So in that way, the theory is never separate from practice. In addition, 1 day a week, we also have collective organization and decision time. And we also build our support around a nice sharing space to produce, learn, and spell. Entrepreneurs we support have their keys, organize themselves their activity. So it's very important that really we go to the autonomy of the people to support the autonomy people. And for example, for the sharing place is very important. With the culinary cooperative, we work in an associative restaurant 3 days a week, just to put in practice and to really do it in real. Okay. So it was very important in a way of management not to impose our solution and vision onto the community reality and the approach. We try to create the best possible framework to promote discussion, organization, and decision making. And finally, mutual support, solidarity between entrepreneur and collective vision are very central in our way of managing support projects. And this value seems very important for many women we support. So especially during the COVID period, it was very, as Anna has already said, it's so important to share a little bit time outside home. You know? Okay. Yes. And we continue to follow to support them, especially since some of them have decided to keep on working together through the collective brand they have created during the cooperative. And now we are currently also thinking about a project of French learning adapted from entrepreneurship profile, another way to support migrants in their economical project. So we hope we could experiment this at the end of the year.
Great. Thank you very much, Martine, for all the examples as well. Fantastic. So moving on to Alison. Alison?
Hi, thanks, Beth. And yeah, really interesting, Anna and Martine, thank you. So to remind you, I work in an organization or lead an organization that connects underserved communities with opportunities in tech startups. And I think for us, probably, I mean, there's lots of obstacles. So I'm always loath to mention one obstacle, so I might mention a few. We think that the key success factors are access to financial, human, social, and inspirational capital. And actually, if you look at the people that we're serving, which are predominantly women, so we have 60% women and around 95% people of colour, they really only have access to human capital. So they don't have access to financial capital, they can't raise money from family and friends, for example, and they certainly don't have access to social capital, they're not part of wider networks, and they don't have access to inspiration capital, by which I mean people in the ecosystem who can inspire them so that they can be who they can see in the ecosystem. So, you know, we need to be really honest that the tech entrepreneurship ecosystem was created by white men for white men. It's very educated, it's very privileged, it's very cliquey, you know, people stick together, and it's very hard to break into it as a newcomer. So pretty much everything we do is designed to break down those barriers. And we work both on the supply side, so helping diverse founders to access all those areas of capital. We have an investor in residence, we have an entrepreneur in residence, we run entrepreneurship incubators. We do a lot of office hours events where we do kind of speed dating with investors, mentors and advisors. We do a lot of direct brokerage to investment opportunities. We offer a lot of one-to-one support. And we've recently started to deliver last summer accountability groups. So this is kind of group mentoring, peer-to-peer network support, which has proven to be really, really useful. One of the things that we're constantly up against when it comes to financial capital is this kind of mindset that the only way to succeed in tech is through investment. The only way to succeed in tech is the really hard way. And actually less than 1% of successful tech companies raise money through investment. So we're constantly trying to help entrepreneurs make better decisions about their route to sustainable business success. And that includes looking at revenue generation and sales, really, the old-fashioned method of growing a business, which actually creates more better sustainable businesses. Wow. So I just wanted to finish with a story of a woman called Talia. So Talia came to us about 2 years ago. She runs a company called Sheer Chemistry, which is a company which designs and sells tights for people of colour. So there's different shades of tights for people of colour. And she came to us really wanting just us to introduce her to a few investors. And it's taking us 2 years really, and the COVID crisis, to help her understand that actually just simple e-commerce might be a better route for her. And now she's designed, partly as a result of COVID, a really interesting business model where she's selling both B2B and B2C directly through her website, including some machine learning technology which enables people to match their skin tone to the tights that she's selling. We've offered her a huge amount of support, including workspace advice, investment brokerage, but ultimately she's now landed on a model which enables her to grow what we hope will be a successful business, which will also give back to communities that she's coming from. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'll finish there. But I think that, you know, I just think we need to think about these people's access to the four areas of capital that I started with: financial capital, human capital, social capital, and inspiration capital, and acknowledge that they don't have access. That one of the biggest obstacles is they don't have access to 3 of those areas.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much, Alison. Really appreciate your comments. Sven, you're next.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Thanks. First of all, most of the things said, thanks to Anna, Alison, and Martin. There's probably one typical thing I would add is that we have a problem in Germany about our job agencies, which might be the same in different countries, but there's a strong fear of most of the refugees and migrants we're working with, that they lose all their services or the social support when they become independent and start their own business. So we actually work quite strongly and hard together with the job agencies also to support them to see the opportunities in refugees and migrants starting their own business. So this is actually probably one of our own or main obstacles which we have actually in Hamburg. The job center and the support of them starting a business. The second one, we actually trying to work strongly with social media because most of the refugees and migrants we worked with didn't know about all the services for sure. So the access to get to know where they actually find us and find different organizations. We use a lot of social media, of Instagram for sure, and all the typical ones. Like this is at the moment the only way to get in touch for sure. But also we trying proactively to go working with different organizations who actually work in the field for sure. Organizations working with women, organizations working with refugees, but we actually have to go proactively to these organizations in order to be in touch. And this is probably the second key success factor we're having at the moment. So all the others mentioned, like language barriers, for sure it's a problem, but this was already mentioned by most of the others. But the job agency strongly is our biggest obstacle in Hamburg at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sven. So before we get to Q&A, I know there were 2 questions, but a lot of you answered both of them. So I don't know if you want to say something else. And feel free now about the second question, which is basically, I mean, how is the need, what you do, how is it different from mainstream support? Like, where is the need that is different from what we would call mainstream support? So if any of you want to add to what you have said, just on that briefly, that would be great. And then we'll move to the Q&A. Anna, Martin, Alison, Sven, who wants to say something?
Probably, I just finished. Oh, sorry, Alison, you start.
Okay.
Ladies first. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to stress the importance of a kind of user-led approach. And I'm not entrepreneur facing. I don't talk directly to entrepreneurs in the work that I do, and it's really important. We work through a lot of different community partners. I think it's really important that people can see their peers in the room. So for us, I guess if there's one thing about what we do that's different to mainstream provision, it's about providing safe spaces, time, trusted spaces where people can spend the time that they need to gain the confidence and the kind of be able to be empowered and feel confidence in their business and in their ability to deliver their business. Somewhere where they can ask questions that aren't stupid questions and have answers from both experts and their peers. And I just don't think that a lot of the mainstream support in London provides those safe spaces. And it takes time, effort and investment to provide safe spaces. And sometimes entrepreneurship, particularly tech entrepreneurship, just moves really fast. So yeah, safe spaces and slowing down to speed up.
Great. That's a slogan right there, Alison. So who else would like to say something? Sven, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I just would like to add, I mean, it's all with us, it's all about building trust and gaining the trust of the people we're working with. It's like you said, Alison, totally creating safe spaces, especially we also work with women entrepreneurship and focusing on these groups too. And without these safe spaces, a lot of people wouldn't just join us. So What we also do is that we involve former participants from different cultural backgrounds, which really helps to get in touch and to gain the trust of the participants. It's probably also that we have a lot of feedback loops once people started with us. First of all, we have long-time interviews. So we're actually taking into account their life situation, understanding all what happens around them. It's not just about their business. We always have to be careful not to getting too much into their personal problems, but we have to take it into account. That's quite important for us. We also have for sure a lot of one-to-one coaching, but we also do group coaching, which is great because they also see that other participants from same culture background having same problems. So it's a good combination. We do like a mix between one-to-one coaching and group coaching, which we really like. And we also using and working with mentors. So they also have a person from Hamburg on their side, and they can ask whatever they need. So besides the coaching from us, they have a mentor, which is really helpful at the point of time. And last but not least, we also do different social events. So we do sometimes, besides all the hard work we do together, we do cooking sessions, we do sports together, we joining different events together. So this is really helpful to gain the trust. And last but not least, this is quite important because we see that a lot of participants sometimes have the problems to open up, to talk about their business, to talk about their business ideas. They feeling opening up about this, they can lose their business idea. So we try to turn it around and really help them to see what they gain by opening up and creating good networks for their business idea.
Great, thank you. Anna, Martine, do you want to add anything?
No, maybe just repeat for us to have real place to organize activities like a real restaurant for culinary project and all these things is very, very important to advance with entrepreneurs, and all the solidarity values and everything at the end of the project. Every time the woman we support, it's always one thing that can say at the end, to be together, to be part of an adventure together, to share solidarity values is very, very important every time. So so I think this element is very important for us.
Yes. And then I would add that I consider that there is not only one migrant. We always say migrant, but not only one migrant profile. And it's our approach is one approach among many others who really everyone makes the best and the best approach and the best program with the people they work with. We don't forget where the migrants were from, and we make the best to take into consideration, to consider them. I'm not sure you understand what I mean. No, there is not only one solution. There are many solutions, and the solution is a match with the people we work with. Yeah. For example, we are very small migrants we work with, informal activity, sometimes they have a very low level, educational level, school level, and we have to take in consideration they have skill, but they don't know the code of the host country. They know intercultural code, and that's all. I just want to add this.
Thank you. That's an important point, Martine. Thank you so much. So everyone was so interesting. I couldn't stop them, but I have to apologize because we hardly have any time for questions. I think if someone has a burning question right now, otherwise I promise you that we will share so people can ask each other questions offline, and also we will come back to you, which Alex will explain later. But does anyone have a burning question that they wanted to ask the panelists now? I have about 100, but I don't want to right now. Does anybody, or should we move on? Okay, great. Is that okay? Okay, so I want to thank everyone from panel 2. I thought it was an excellent session, and I certainly learned a lot, and I can imagine everyone else did. So now we are going to move on to our concluding remarks, and it's Professor Manda Ram, who runs the Center for Research in Ethnic Minority Entrepreneurship at Aston University, UK, and who I personally have known for many years, and he's a friend as well as a colleague. So Manda, do you want to have the floor?
Thanks very much, Beth, and thank you to all the contributors. It is a real pleasure and honor, actually, privilege to sort of eavesdrop on your insights into working with migrants and the brilliant work you're doing to integrate them into the economy, the fabric of life in your respective societies. I'm not going to sort of, it'll be too challenging a task to summarize everything. So what I'm just going to do is pick up on 2 or 3 points. The first point, I think, suppose the commonalities between the particular, in the different countries, you know, although you're very, very different countries, the challenges of sort of making your way in a new society, looking at the formal and the informal rules. I thought that was really interesting. People commented, yes, you have these regulations. And I think it was Matteo who said, yeah, that's what this says on paper, but you need a whole new way of working to understand the informal ways that regulations are negotiated. You know, the challenging task of really understanding how business is conducted and the bewildering array of institutions that are in this space. But let me just pick up on 2 or 3 points, and 3 points in particular. The first one I found really interesting is, where does this agenda fit within the policy domains? So is it within the social sphere? Is it within the economic sphere? Is it within, let's say, the tech sphere, which is becoming really, really interesting? And I think one of Matteo made the point, and I thought it was really refreshing, that often when we talk about migrants, we talked about them in a sort of, with a deficit discourse of what's wrong with them, as opposed to what's right with them in terms of the contribution they can make. And I think Matteo's point about integrating them into quite centrally into the discourse and the policy of growth within a city, I thought was fascinating. Because we don't often see that. We often see that here is your entrepreneurship policy, here's your growth policy, and here's something to do with to incorporate migrants as they are. And I think that perpetuates an othering of migrants, and actually thinking creatively of how we can integrate the different ways that migrants contribute to society within different policy domains. It's fascinating. And I think that is a really important agenda. How do we incorporate migrants within the mainstream of policy? And I think the Scotland's international integration strategy is really interesting, because from what I see, there's quite a concerted attempt to integrate that with the work that Scottish Enterprise does. So I think that is a really positive trend. The second point I want to make is about the nature of ecosystems. And I thought what was really fascinating, given that where each of the contributors were coming from, was their position within different organizations, whether it's a local authority, the private sector, public sector, and what's going on the ground. And I'm sort of tempted to say there's an ecosystem that's developed to support migrants. And we see representatives on the screen, but there's also, and I think perhaps less appreciated ecosystem that reflects, I think in Farhad's opening comments, the lived reality of migrants. Migrants have their ecosystems. Whatever we do, migrants find a way. They have those ecosystems, they have those support mechanisms that they have to develop because of situations of adversity. And sometimes it's a question of recognizing how those organic migrant-led ecosystems work, and creating a link between those two, the formal ecosystems, which we all know about, and the informal migrant-led ecosystems. And I think this point really hit home to me, has really hit home to me during COVID. During COVID, our government, like I suspect many of your governments, have been throwing money to support economic activity, to keep jobs going, etc., etc. So who do they use in terms of getting that resource out to businesses? They will use the formal ecosystem. Well, if we know from your experience and some of the research, actually, the formal ecosystem doesn't get to migrants and their networks and their businesses, there's a real and pressing challenge here. And I think this point about COVID, which Colleen mentioned and Beth mentioned at the start, is fascinating, because I think this exacerbates this issue. It really puts it out into the light. And I think this also relates to a point that Martine made about, well, migrants, how we label them, are economically active, but we don't recognize that economic activity. And many migrants, like indeed many mainstream entrepreneurs, dabbled in the informal economy before they engage in formal economic activity. And I think recognizing, and that's an interesting policy challenge as well, isn't it? Do you, as a policy person, are you opposed to the informal economy, or do you want to root it out, or do you see it as an inevitable way of acculturating to a new society and devise enabling mechanisms to facilitate a transition from one to the other? So I think that's that mismatch and how we're connected is really important. And my final point, and I was so pleased that a number of colleagues mentioned this point, is about, yes, there are a plethora of different kinds of interventions, but beneath a lot of those interventions seems to be one core quality that characterize the more successful interventions, and that's the importance of building relationships and trust rather than just contriving an intervention. I think Alison mentioned at the end about the user-led approach. Martine made some really fascinating point about migrant women who prefer to work in a collective way, the importance of deliberation, discussion in being an integral part of the design of a program, not something waffly and unnecessary, actually integral to the design of the program and integral to the success of the program. And I think Sven mentioned as well, didn't he, that the importance of trust in developing this, what I call a relational approach to policy design. So often when we're evaluating policy, it's a tick box, it's a metric. How many workshops on business planning have you put in? But we could equally say, what time have you taken to really understand in a holistic way the challenges of migrant working here? How have you recognized their skills? And we know, for example, Fahad said right at the start, there's a huge amount of unacknowledged human capital. And I think Harry made this point as well. These entrepreneurs, these individuals are incredibly well qualified, but I don't know if time is built into policy measures to really understand the multidimensional nature in which migrants are capable of contributing. And I think this importance to developing the relationships, I think, is a big point. We make it consistently. Now there's a big move in there's going to be a Race and Equality Commission reporting in a few months about new measures to support migrant entrepreneurs. One of the big points, and we've contributed to the reviews, one of the big points we made is there are no shortage of initiatives. What there is a shortage is of the effort, time, political and economic will to invest in the relationships involved in integrating migrants, and spending time on understanding where they're coming from, spending time on developing relationships of trust in a non-transactional way, and utilizing their knowledge in the design of programs. A couple of colleagues mentioned co-creation, co-production. is actually fundamental. And I think that's one of the biggest points I take away from the fascinating session today. Thanks, Beth.
Not muted. Mandra, thank you so much. As usual, you've been able to make some very important points and pull everything together, and we really appreciate it. So we are almost finished. Thank you. So thank you, Mandra. So Alexander, do you want to just have the last word about this fantastic seminar? I just personally want to thank all of you because you've been so brilliant. Alexander, do you want to take the floor, please?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, what we really wanted to achieve today was to showcase and highlight these good practices and to have this conversation around the factors of success, what it really takes to create sustainability, to achieve this collaborative approach, and to reach out to diverse businesses. So the next steps for us in these NES initiatives are that we will produce a handbook, which will include in more detail models which were represented here today, including key conclusions, recommendations, takeaways. Then there will be a toolkit and on how to implement very concretely an approach that was represented here today by Harry. There will be pilot actions implemented. We will provide opportunities to participate in a peer learning process. Everything will be on the NES website. There will be a newsletter. You are welcome to sign up. The next webinars will be on Tuesday and Thursday next week, again at 12 o'clock. We hope to meet you again. The first will be on Tuesday on business support for the post-COVID recovery period. We will have a look at business resilience, but also the long-term sustainability of support services. The second, new opportunities in the post-COVID recovery period on Thursday. Here we will look into how businesses can gain from expanding sectors in the next years, and also how that links to access to finance and risk capital. But for now, thank you so much again to the panelists for this really great debate. Thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you, Beth, for chairing, and see you soon.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.